Sheffield City Expats Club is a non-profit social organisation and our speakers are volunteers. The club as such assumes no responsibility or liability for the professional reputation of or the quality of services provided by the speaker today.
Have a look at this space. Who has seen this space before? Yeah, lots of posters all over. PBR, Pattaya Bay Real Estate. Welcome, Mark. Good morning. Now, firstly, a little bit about your background, okay? How long have you been involved with property now? Ownership stake or half the business or something. I also want to say that Mark and PBRE are very good about supporting things like local industries. So, we're getting a very hands-on view of real estate and property. And this gives you an idea of how Mark is very fussy about protecting the reputation of your company. And it shows you that you've won 2 years in a row this award. Tell us about this award.
And it's quite hard to win it because not everybody can actually be in it. All the people that are in Bangkok are turning up in the big S-Class Mercedes, and I got one of my admin girls to book a minibus for us. And one of those silver old Toyota minibuses turned up with like flashing lights, and it had stickers up the sides of like bullet holes. And he's turned up and he's like one of the ones that lifts up his t-shirt, you know, with all the amulets on. And I didn't really click at the time, but when we got to this very expensive hotel in London, they have all film crews and people taking all the photographs of everybody coming out looking very glamorous, and then we turn up in this minibus with the bullet holes along the side, and they just all turned away from us. And it wasn't until then I realised. I just thought, oh, I don't believe it.
Yeah, persona non grata, yeah. Now, one more thing I'll just say about this guy's, how he runs his business. One of the things we're going to touch on later is buying off the plan. Who here has ever bought off the plan? Few people have bought off the plan, right? And you're very fussy about if you accept buying off the plan. You get a lot of approaches to sell off the plan.
Yes, we get a lot of companies and individuals and even some very well-known companies that approach us with their new projects and such, and offer very lucrative deals for us and potential buyers. But for me, the reputation of the company and also the goodwill with our customers is paramount. And even some very established companies, I wouldn't actually suggest, purchasing with them. I'm very particular, so it's not until you actually ask me and I go through what you would actually need and what I would recommend. I try to look at it as I'm buying with you, rather than I'm trying to make money. I try to become involved, emotionally.
And it sounded like you tend to prefer smaller developments buying off the plan than the mega ones.
Yes, because they're not so speculative. Some people really sort of try to shoot for the stars with these amazing projects and hotels and everything like that. So it takes a lot of inside knowledge to recommend one.
Yeah, I heard somebody else talk about this, and they said you don't want to just research the company, you want to research who are the sort of on the committee of the company. You want to be that particular about.
Yes, yeah. They can pop up anywhere.
Yeah. So you get the cowboys popping up with new companies all the time. And we've seen a lot of stalled developments with COVID that just seem to have frozen.
Yeah, well, a lot of these use other people's money for their funding, so it's sort of as soon as the investment dries up, it's actually cheaper, and this is how they're able to offer such high returns and guaranteed rental returns, even though it's not built, because it's actually less expensive than borrowing from the bank. And of course, the people are much more relaxed about demanding their money back than, say, like a big bank will. If your project is hundreds of millions of baht overdue, then the bank will be, very focused on getting that money. But if that's spread over many individuals, it will be in the contract that has 5 years before construction starts and things like that. This is why I particularly have to have a look at this sort of thing, because if there's many things in the contract which don't seem right, then I shy away from that.
Yeah, we had an interesting case where some years ago now, somebody came and gave us we had a morning on property. And by the way, I occasionally say, I think sometime we should have a property therapy session here, because there's so many people have been traumatized buying off the plan or whatever that they tell us horror stories. But New Nordic, of course, and they was I was always worried. Anything that has a guaranteed return of 10% per annum worries me. And they seemed quite shiny for a long time, and we had somebody saying, "Oh yeah, no, they generate all this money," and of course what happened recently is not good.
Well, yeah, exactly. That one, I can honestly say I never sold one, and I never attempted to sell one, just because for me it doesn't seem correct. And then I got inside knowledge of something that wasn't being built, which was meant to have been built, and things like that. So yeah, that was just something I just totally shied away from. And PBRE has never sold any New Nordic property.
You understand by New Nordic, it's the orange buildings, the orange developments and stuff. That's what we're talking about. All right. So now, who here owns a condo in Pattaya? Who here owns a condo? All right. So who here rents a condo? It's about 50-50 really, isn't it? Approximately. So there's been during COVID, there were unbelievable deals in renting condos.
Yeah, I actually took one. It was so cheap.
Yeah. But now it seems like they're very rapidly moving into. We had the Indians come back suddenly en masse, and we've had peak season starting to pick up. The good deals on condo rentals, not so much now.
Yes, even as we speak, this morning I go into the office at 7 o'clock and I deal with all the inquiries that come through the night, and there is so many Russian inquiries, but they're predominantly very short, only 3 months to 6 months. This could be something political and uncertainty that they're getting away from that, or as they do on Samui. When I lived on Samui, there's many that come just for the winter, and they actually come to holiday in places like Thailand to escape the cold weather. So, but that plus with the Indians as well now that is making high demand for rentals. And
Are the Indians buying?
No. I do find the Indian tourists come on holiday to save money. You know.
Ah, okay. All right. Mind you, I find Indian food here quite expensive, but anyway. So
I shouldn't have said that. It's probably politically incorrect.
I'm sure a lot of people have. Who here has politically incorrect things to say about Indian tourists? Quite a few hands going up, believe me. It's a polite way of approaching the subject, isn't it? So, renting versus buying. Now, I'm of the, rent money is dead money. I had somebody paid rent for, 5, 6, 7 years, and they finally saw the light and bought. But what are the upsides and downsides of buying?
This is like the $1 million question, isn't it? And it's to actually do with the person, like your personality, how comfortable you are. There's some people are very comfortable that they can just pack their bags and give a month's notice and clear off. But there's other people that don't like that sort of pressure that, they don't really have a home and they want their home. So there's also that. It's like an emotional thing. Like for me, I'm very 50-50 on it. At the moment I rent. Would I buy? Well, yeah, like in my sort of mind, I dream of like having a lovely house which I own. But then I also, like on the flip side, think, well, maybe I'll get bored of this area. I want to move to another part of Pattaya or Thailand in the future. So I'm very open. So it's a very personal thing. Financially, I would say right now you would be better buying right now, and that's because the rents are really going up quite rapidly. We have more tenants looking for rental properties, particularly pool villas, than we do have things like pool villas.
Oh wow, pool villas, that's a really interesting one.
Yeah, so
we're going to come back to that. I do know one person who I believe is in the audience, who I won't point out, but he tends to feel he would have been better off renting because his condo, he happens to have noisy neighbours, which that could be one downside of owning.
Yes, there's that, and there's also if your particular condo building becomes popular with people of certain ethnicity, which you might not be the biggest fan of, there's also that, because they can be noisy and stuff. So yeah, there is that. There's many things that can go wrong, but the good things about condos is they're very easy to rent out.
Yeah, and selling them's fairly easy or not so easy at the moment?
It's very dependent on the unit, to be honest. Right. It's very much which is the flavour of the month. Yeah, so some gain much popularity. Yeah.
So I thought we'd bring this up, the question of, if you own a condo, of course, then there can be the question of renovation and repairs, or even if you're renting it out, it needs to be presentable enough, and there can be an issue with tradespeople, but I was very interested that you sometimes recommend tradespeople if you're confident.
Yes. Obviously, I'm not liable for the work because this is Thailand, so we've all had...
Unfortunately, the tradesmen don't seem to be liable to the work sometimes too.
Yeah, well, no, they don't at all, no. So there are some that we use, and people do approach us, like some of our customers, and we can have people go and have a look, and the people will be much more focused on doing a good job because they work with us before. And
they want repeat customers and looking after their
definitely.
reputation. Yeah.
Yes, most definitely, yeah.
Yeah, so this, and the other thing, of course, and we should do this more, is that there is a recommended business section that Daryl runs on PCEC website, and you can go there, and members have recommended certain businesses, etc. And so that is definitely worth checking out. I'm so slack and lazy. I've got a couple I found that I really want to recommend. So this is a very important subject. Tradespeople, worth going. If you're looking for someone, for instance, always better to get a recommendation. So it's worth dropping in the office and asking for a recommendation.
Also, I just mentioned that I actually studied building surveying at university, and I was a site engineer and had my own surveying company in England. So I worked on projects about £1.4 billion. I worked for Tesco's. I was like 40 Tesco's and that. So I'm pretty much a building expert. So if anybody has any like specific questions, I can pretty much be the best person to actually show in.
And there's been some condo complexes built that have run into very serious problems that I can't mention their names, of course. But you know, in Pratamnak and even along Taupraya Road, there's been some issues, and so there's something you really have to watch out for, that it's actually built properly.
Yeah, for me, I can walk around in 10 minutes and I know exactly whether it's sound or not because I've been trained and I'm very experienced with it.
So do you tend to avoid selling businesses in those sorts of buildings, or you warn them what they're getting into?
Well, yeah, the good thing is for somebody buying, if they approach me and we go and have a look together, I can actually unofficially have a look whether I would recommend it, because I actually want repeat business, I want referrals. So every time I go out with a customer, I look at it as the start of a relationship rather than just trying to make money just once off them or anything like that.
So you're trying to build an ongoing relationship and word of mouth and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So, of course, this is something else worth checking out, what the state of the management at the condo is like, and the condo committee, etc.
Yes.
Because some of them have bad reputations, right?
Yes, and it's very valid that they have bad reputations. There seems to be ongoing issues that I've seen recently, even though we're not actually involved with it, we've just been like assisting, and there's people who are managers of particular condos who they can't get out, and money's gone missing.
Yeah, money gone missing, yeah.
Yeah, it's always like when someone has the keys to the safe, it's always the temptation. And yeah, so we've seen that firsthand, very recently actually, and I'm very surprised because some of these are very nice condos, buildings, and very well kept, but that's just a facade for what's going on behind, and it ends up fighting.
This can be a very real issue. You want to obviously look at what the charges are for the condo, the annual charges.
Yeah, I recently sold quite an expensive condo, and the buyer was quite young, just in his 30s, and he was very astute actually. Because before we went ahead, he said, there's one thing I want to check. I want to check what the balance is for the condo, how much money the condo has in the bank, where the committee members are they still in Thailand? And I just thought, wow, this is the first condo he's ever bought in Thailand, but he's asking these questions that people who are buying numerous condos never even think about. But he was actually quite focused on that. And when we checked, it had about 6 million in the bank. So it was quite okay for him, yeah, and he did purchase.
So now moving from condos to buying or renting houses, I know somebody, I cannot believe this. They rent a condo out near Lake Maprachan, part of an estate. It's got a detached granny flat, let's say. It's 4 bedrooms, whatever, but they're paying 240,000 baht a month's rent, right? So there's some very expensive rentals and expensive ones to buy. How do you see the upsides and downsides of, renting or buying a house?
Well, yeah, it's to do with the person, whether they're actually going to stay long term, because of that sort of money. You could buy a plot of land and make a little dream home, for what you'd spend in like 5 years, and then like when you get bored, you'll be able to sell it.
Yeah, rent money is dead money, right? Especially on that sort of...
Well, at that scale, yeah. I can understand if somebody thinks, well, for 15 or 20,000, I just need a little house and I don't want, a big garden, and, it's just how you want to live your life. But when we talk about those figures, then it ends up a bit crazy.
Yeah, no. Who here rents or owns a house? I know a couple of people up the back. So a handful rent or buy a house. I always said the only reason I'd ever buy a house is to have a dog, right? But there's some condos coming up, I think, where you can have a pet or something.
Yeah, there's some in Siam Oriental, like Reflection, but then they also specify how many kilos the dog can be.
Toy dogs, right?
Ah, yeah, teacup dogs or something. Yeah, so even that is not really accessible to everybody.
And one of the downsides of houses is they tend to be much more vulnerable to robbery condos. So
That's strange because I've lived on Koh Samui and I've lived in Khon Kaen and now I rent a house in Pattaya and I've never had any issue with any break-in. I've never. I don't understand, like when people say it, I just never...
Well, of course, then if you're absent for a few months and the house is vacant...
Oh, yeah, but then I'm never
So
absent.
that helps, right? But it is an issue. I mean, like, I couldn't feel any safer in my condo than I do. There's security downstairs, they know everybody, there's cameras, whereas if you're in a house, I knew somebody has a major investor in condos. He owns like a lot and rents and renovates and sells. But he started to get into houses, but it just got too irritating for them because they were getting broken into and stuff. But they were vacant and stuff.
Yeah. All depends. Like the best ones are to buy in estates.
Yeah,
you
sure.
know, that are like managed. But then there's some people that buy these properties to run like Airbnbs from, and then with the estates, that becomes much more difficult, which is quite good actually, because it means the price doesn't go crazy on the ones in the estates, and you're able to actually see if that's a good deal in the market because there'll be very similar properties.
And how have they performed price-wise? Are they tend to go up in price over time, or are they just hold their prices?
It's quite stable, believe it or not. Of course, what happens is, because I would class Pattaya being a transient market, as in there's not people like us in this room who are born here, our family are here, we're going to work here, we'll live here, we'll die here. You know, we're here for a period of time and then we may go home. So this means it sort of like puts a blip in the market that, like, if I have a property which I've lived in for 10 years and it's worth 10 million, but I want to go home, I'm not well, or I want to grow up and see the grandkids and that sort of thing, then, you know, I let it go for a lot less than I would because I just want to get rid of it. So that sort of like affects the prices a bit because of the people coming and going in Pattaya.
But one tip I was given, I was actually told by an insurance guy, if you're living in a condo, you basically don't need robbery insurance and stuff. But if you're in a house, you've got to get like very comprehensive insurance, including robbery.
Or a big dog like I have.
that helps, yeah. Yep, and of course they're more expensive because, especially if you're getting, you have a garden and you have a swimming pool.
Oh yeah, incidentally, where I'm renting at the moment, it costs me 21,000 baht a month, okay, and it has a pool and a garden because I need a garden for my dog. And the electric bill, and we have like 3 air cons, is 12,000 baht a month.
Yeah, mounts up, right?
I know, and I'm just sort of like, oh.
That hurts.
Yeah.
Solar, mate. Go solar.
Yeah, well, you know, I just can't work it out how it's so high.
So this has become a new possibility. All right. So going back to houses, in a company name or in the Thai spouse's name?
Company name.
Let's not go. Obviously, you understand why that's. I just had this guy. It's a long story, but I'll put it this way. He had a massive stroke. Okay, well, no, not that massive. He had a stroke. Suddenly, his Thai girlfriend took his house, was in her name, business was in her name. She even took his iPhone and left him with a phone that actually had money on it, okay? So, because she thought, oh, well, it's my time, now's my time to take everything. But now, you could possibly own land in your own name.
Yeah, they do come out with this about every year, don't they? So, yeah, I'm not sure exactly when this is going to be launched fully. So it's those things in Thailand, as you know, like the government will have a scheme or an idea which they're going to roll out, which sort of like doesn't roll out.
And you only need, what, 40 million baht or something to...
Oh, yeah, only, yeah. I don't know, you know.
To buy, qualify to buy a land. And
so I don't need to worry about it.
Who here's got the 40 million baht? And so now, the question of buying off the plan construction. Now, this is notorious, okay? This is the Bali High thing. Would you want to give us a brief recap of why it became such a blot?
Well, it hasn't been built.
Well, unfortunately, some of it has.
Yeah.
I actually know that one member, I don't know if they're here or not, actually bought off the plan for this, right? That hurts.
Yeah, there's see, I have to be careful, you know, what I say, obviously, like in the business that I'm in. And this is why I do suggest it. And I'm not just saying it just to try and drum up business or that sort of thing, but like if you're looking to actually invest in something and it just so happens that there's a particular good deal in off plan, then you do need to come to a company like us to check it for you, to see if we would actually recommend it. Because there's many which I will not touch, that, you know, initially it's quite exciting. But then in the cold light of day, when you like sit there and you think about it and you go through all the details and stuff, you think, no, I'll just skip this one. We won't market that one. I'm not.
And by the way, you don't think this is just directed towards Farang buyers. This is like any buyers, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You know, there's. I've heard of cases where somebody owned a block of, Thai person owned a block of land, and they paid all this big deposit to start the construction, and the construction company never started the construction. It was like, well, take us to court. We just pocketed all your money and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's. So these are we're seeing these mega complexes, right?
Yes.
And this is something that is a bit of a red flag for you, buying off the plan with these mega complexes.
Well, it all depends on the company. Again, you know, there's some that are going very well and they're getting a very good reputation and they're becoming very popular. And with selected units, they're selling out pretty much before any work is done at all. And yeah, there's some of them that we actually would recommend that, you know, they've got ongoing projects, so you know, it's quite as safe as can be.
And this one is at Nha Jom Tien. It's quite a beautiful development and stuff.
Yeah,
are there
well,
particular areas that you're seeing a change in character and an improvement in the prices there? Like Nha Jom Tien maybe is one of those.
Yeah, there's a new project that's tied up with Ramada Hotels, which is on the, not beach side of Sukhumvit, but the other side, which we're just sort of like in talks with, because there's actually going to be 4 hotels, a big shopping centre, and you can actually buy hotel rooms or even a whole floor for investment. But you know, it's quite a big, they've even got like a hub where, even with a helicopter landing pad. And yeah, so somewhere like in Nha Jom Tien, there's a lot going on. Apparently Sony have bought some land down there to build a theme park to do with like Sony Entertainment, like the movies and that. And so there's a lot in that area. But that project is only just launching, and we're sort of looking at it now, what different packages they offer to investors.
And of course, we've seen the big influx of Chinese buyers. This one's specifically geared up to have an extra level of appeal to Chinese buyers. But they often never come to the place they've bought, right?
Yeah, correct, yeah. There's actually a couple of companies that I know that have offices in China, and they're showing all these books and chunuts, which are for the Chinese people that are buying, and it's all done by power of attorney. They're not even here, and they probably won't come for years.
If at all, but they're keen to get the money out of China for whatever reason. Right?
Yeah, well, yeah.
And I mean, I was shocked when I did some research, and I found out that of all foreign-owned condos in Thailand, Chinese own 50% of them already. That's like amazing. No wonder they're doing developments specifically geared up for Chinese buyers.
Yeah, there was where my daughter's at university. There was a few big condo blocks there, and a lot of them were owned by Chinese, and they're just empty. They still got like the plastic on the door, and that was built like 3 years ago, just like left.
Yeah, I've heard that there's like 100,000 empty condos in Bangkok.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all. Yeah.
I find this very interesting because in Australia during COVID, for unknowable reason, property skyrocketed in value, right? Really. That didn't happen in Thailand. I don't know why it happened in Australia. I thought it was crazy. And I talked to this guy who thinks he knows everything, and he was going, I said, you're selling at the right time. He said, oh no, property values will never go down in Australia. The government will never let them go down, but they can't control these things, right? Now property in Australia is going because it's just overpriced.
So, yeah.
So we certainly didn't see any increase in the price of any property in Thailand during COVID, but we're starting to see a pickup now, yeah?
Yeah, especially with new developments. You know, the prices are that little bit higher because it's just the market trend. People want the new house. Me, I would rather have a second-hand house, which I can then alter it to how I want it, because the land plot would be bigger, it would be better construction. But some people, they really do prefer the new build. And for me, being a building surveyor, the materials are too lightweight. The tradesmen don't have the experience of working with like the modern materials, and it does show after a couple of years.
So that's very interesting. So you think the older condos are less likely to collapse in an earthquake, for instance?
Yeah, most definitely, yeah.
So there you go. That is fascinating.
Particularly the houses. I would like, personally, if someone said to me, here you go, Mark, here's 10 million, go and buy me a house, 100% it would be a second-hand house.
But of course the Thais can be very superstitious about things that people have lived in before or driven before, right? Because it's like it's got bad juju, bad karma associated with it, bad energy.
Yeah.
So notoriously, in Australia, you buy something, a year later it's going to be worth a bit more. But in Thailand, if somebody's lived in it, the price that the Thais are willing to pay could actually go down.
Yeah, it's very much like the red plate cars. It's like with the houses as well. But I have had numerous inspections where, I don't like it, ghosts. And then I think, well, there you go.
Maybe you need to become friends with a monk who specialises in clearing out bad energies.
No, it's bad enough like you have people talking about feng shui, or then it's sort of like ghosts. But of course it can be just objections to the property that people just come out with something, just to say they don't like it. Yeah.
And I was very interested. I looked at your website. You're accepting crypto now as payment.
Yeah, we have a special machine that prints out QR codes which can be scanned and paid by your crypto wallet. And it actually took 2 months to set up. And I had all this paperwork I had to fill in for these American-based banks who support this, to make sure I don't have any shares in any cryptocurrency, things like that, to make sure that I'm totally impartial. It's just
and that you're not actually, laundering money.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. Like, some of the things, like, again, another pack of papers again. But then there is, and we have to register it with Thai banks as well. So it was a very long process, and we still have that facility, but we do have to check on the day which particular bank and such that the customer's looking to deal with, and what is going to be transferred to the owner of the property, because the owner of the property may want to take the money out of the country and things like that. So the banks are very, very particular about money laundering now.
Yes. Who here would be interested in a morning where we discuss crypto and how to own it in Thailand and how to transfer it? I'll say it again. Is anybody here interested in crypto? Almost not very many people. That's fascinating. All right. So now Pattaya is part of the Eastern Economic Corridor, where there's a lot of money being poured into, a lot of money. For instance, there's a medical city being built at Lake Maprachan, a city, not a hospital, like a city. So massive developed Chinese money, one of the big investors in this Eastern Economic Corridor. I'm actually wondering what that medical city is going to do to property prices out around Lake Maprachan area, and there's some nice properties out there.
Yeah.
So how do you see this impacting in Pattaya and property in Pattaya?
Well, even like I just mentioned in Jomtien, where they're going to build these 4 hotels and a resort complex, and all these there's a massive, the longest lagoon in Asia or something like that, and
that wouldn't have happened without the EEC.
Yeah, so there's other people from other countries that are looking what's going on and thought, well, this is going to be a hot spot, so we better jump in here. So that's very much all happening. Then you have the Utapao Airport, that mass expansion, which I think has just started now, and it's going to 5 times the size of what it is now. Yeah, so there's that. That's just to cater for the amount of people that are going to be coming in. So there's much expansion and roadworks. I don't know if you've seen the roadworks. Yeah, every day I see the roadworks.
Has anybody noticed roadworks in Pattaya at all? Anybody?
It's sort of like, now it's like, if you're going to Bangsaray, it goes from 5 lanes down to 1 lane, but they do that on the long weekend. And it's just like, why the fuck have they done that and just left it for the weekend? Why not just open it? Because there's nothing going on, there's nobody working anyway, but you've just bottlenecked all this traffic.
And it always seems to, they always seem to have the roadworks in the most used areas during peak season, right?
Yeah, they save it up and then put it right next to a junction.
It's almost like, no, people they'll be impressed we're doing all this work, right? Rather than going, why are they doing it now? Right?
Yeah, but it's the way that it's done the whole length of the road. It's not done in stages that's planned. It's just done, right, let's just start. And we just start for the next 10 kilometres, like everything. So
this could really revolutionise, for instance, the prices of property in Pattaya could go up because of this sort of development.
So it will definitely be going up.
So trending up, if only because of this and stuff. And of course, there'll be a lot of workers come in. Of course, what do you think about buying elsewhere in the Chonburi province or this area and stuff? We've got the Lam Chabang and stuff area, which we presumably will increase as well. Yeah,
well, it seems to be Bangsaray and Sadahip. It hasn't really caught up. Like the prices are still just sort of like ticking along below the radar. So
Bangsaray is the closest beach to Bangkok as well.
Yeah, and now they built that new Bangkok road. So I know Cisaran are doing quite a few condo developments there, and they're just about to start a new one. They really believe in the area and do a lot of work to promote it. And so that's a possible good investment there in Bangsaray, because it doesn't have the sort of stigma that Pattaya has to the general public.
And Jomtien doesn't have that sort of stigma around the Pattayas.
No.
Yeah, interesting. That's very interesting. And just, this is our final little look at, are there any other areas in Thailand you think are looking pretty sexy, or are we the sexiest area?
Oh, definitely.
Referencing Walking Street. Okay.
Yeah. I've only ever been to Walking Street once.
Who believes him?
Me? No, I haven't. I just walked through. I've never even been into a bar in there, Yeah. Well, Bangkok, because of the business I'm in and what I'm doing, I'm always looking at traffic and figures and things like that. And what would I say? Hua Hin's still like quite sleepy. Phuket is quite sleepy. Bangkok is getting quite active. Pattaya is quite active. Let me just see.
What about Khon Kaen, your old stomping ground?
No, that's pretty sleepy as well. It just almost sort of like the rest of the world is gearing up, and it's still like carrying on at its own pace.
It's quite charming, Khon Kaen, though.
Yeah. I think like the Chonburi, Rayong and Bangkok, that side, with everything that's going to be going on, is really going to become like a hotspot in Asia. I really do believe that.
And this is you going to collect your award, looking very Oscars there. And this is the reference of how you can contact him at this business. And as you can see, this guy is, extremely well informed. He genuinely tries to run a business that looks to the long term and not the short term. And thank you for sharing your information. And of course, we're moving into Q&A, questions and answers.
Thank you.
I've had to take the other spare mic. Put your hand up if you've got a question. I knew you'd have a question.
Well, very interesting talk, and I wish I'd have met you when I first come over here like a lamb to the slaughter. I was relieved of my first property was a flat, and it was diabolical, but a smooth talker relieved me of a deposit of 150,000, which I lost. And you'd think I mean bahts, I'm not talking pounds there. And you'd think I'd learn from that lesson. And I got drawn into a you can't beat offer of a condo being built, and I didn't do my due diligence like you just talked about. And I bought one with a 20,000 deposit, and then was talked into a second one. 6 years later, it still wasn't finished, and now the company's gone bust, and it was sold to another company, and since checking in England, I find out it's virtually the same company that did me out of my 40,000. And I went to court, and it was a waste of time. That cost me money. And so it put me off buying any property whatsoever. It completely demolished me. I came over with a lump of sum of money that I was willing to invest. And I bought a piece of land about years ago, and I'm 1.5 rai, and I paid 7,000. And I was going to build on that, and damn me, I came out with these plans and to build. Right next door, somebody opened a factory on my wall, right, and he was cutting steel and burning wire 24/7. And I thought, what am I going to do? So my investment finished up renting a condo, and then I bought a condo, and that condo has never increased in price. And so my experience of investing in Thailand is, quite honestly, I'd rent. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
John. You have all my sympathy.
I never got my money back.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your talk. My question belongs to the law.
Oh dear.
Yeah, I bought an old condominium to make it in my own ideas, and I paid on the 29th of April, I pay deposit. And now, 3 weeks ago, I saw another people move in, and it was sold. And my deposit is gone. And I have a contract. Everything is written in English, but there's nothing written in English that there will be a date when it will fall down or when it will be finished. Is it right? In German, it's divorce, or what it's called.
Well, for my personal experience, I actually prepare all the contracts for our company. You know, I do the template, okay? If there's any alterations, any of my agents have to show me to stop. And actually, lawyers don't like my contracts because they're very, very straightforward and very simple and very strong. With that, with no actual date of transfer, then it will be very difficult, I think. Now, I'm not a lawyer. I can only just say what I think. What I think, it will be very difficult to enforce without set dates in there, because it's like an open contract. So, you know, how is a contract valid if it isn't actually fixed? Because there's no fixed dates in there. And we do have many customers who sort of like say, right, I want to get a lawyer. And I say, well, you don't actually have to have one, but for your own peace of mind, please do the due diligence, which is about 20,000 baht, you know, to get a lawyer to do this and even prepare a contract for you. So it is very important that, you know, you do think about that and always try to choose an agent that has quite a big presence, that will be doing things correctly and has been around a while, because, you know, they would have set contracts in place, not just sort of like any girl in the admin knocks it up for you. But yeah, I would suggest you have that checked by a lawyer. I do know a very good one that you could go and speak to.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, okay. No, I'm fine, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
Great talk, thank you. Really enjoyed it. I really like it that you've got a background in construction too. So 2 questions. What are your fees for, I don't know, your service, buying and selling? I don't know what goes on here. I'm from New Zealand. And have you ever made a bad judgment call on a, complex or whatever, like told people that it was a good deal and it hasn't been? Thank you.
No. No, because I try to put myself in there. And this is what I actually happen to do with people that are selling. When they actually come up with a price which they say, oh, I want like 8 million for it. And then after a bit of talking, I actually say to them, right, can I just ask you to do something? They say, okay, what's that? I said, how much would you pay for your house? Really think about it. I know it's your house, but think if you were going to buy it, how much would you actually pay for it? And quite often the people say, well, 5 million. And I say, yeah, exactly. So just think about that answer. So, yeah, it's something to worth thinking about. With regards to fees, the normal fee is 5% based on a successful sale. Now, you don't pay for any marketing, anything like that. And I do have a very high marketing cost. If I told people what it is every month, they'd be quite shocked how high it is. And you only actually pay the commission once we complete a sale. But you also have all the support from our company. We go to the land office, we go to the bank. For example, I had a customer who owned a house in a company name and he sold it, and even though he had all the documentation to show he bought the house with his own money from another country and everything, the bank said, oh fine, great, yeah, we'll help you transfer the money. That's 49% of the sale price. It was like, oh, how come? Well, he only owns 49% of the company. So legally, he can only be entitled to 49%, which could be sent out of the country. But, that took me about 10 visits to the bank, and many letters and declarations and assurances, and I actually managed to get all the money out of the bank and to him as well. So there's many things that we do that's in that fee that people don't actually realise, and it is quite stressful and quite a headache, because the customer really wants their money and they haven't done anything wrong, and I really want to give him the money, so yeah, there's a lot goes on to support our customers.
Hi Mark, thanks so much for your talk, very good.
Thank you.
I wonder if you could just compare investment yield between condos, houses and perhaps even commercial.
Let me see, what have I got cooking at the moment? If a customer came to me now, I would be looking for the best yield to perhaps purchase a pool villa and then to rent it out to a company that does short-term rentals, because that gives them the best return on their investment. We could be talking 7, 8, 9%, and you can actually sit back and let it all run. But of course, it's finding that good company that offers that service and has the customers. So again, that's I have to work on that to look through these companies as well, and can you prove this and prove that, not just say, well, that one's okay, Google it. No, because I'm actually involved, because what will happen is if it goes well, then the customer might be interested to do it again, or that customer might want to buy a piece of land and build 4 houses and then do the same thing again, because the return on investment is so good. And the thing is, with the banks offering such low returns on investments now, people are looking at other options to do things with their money. Yeah, but even 4%, 5%, it's quite easy to achieve at the moment. Yeah.
I have a question about taxes. What are the actual property taxes in Thailand? If reading the Bangkok Post, it seemed like they passed something that if your owner-occupied thing was less than 50 million, there wouldn't be any taxes. But then last year, they tried collecting something like 100 baht or 200 baht. What's going on?
Well, yes, even like my house up in Khon Kaen, I got sort of like this though. Oh, I'm going to get this big tax bill. I'm like, shit, they're going to be knocking on the door, but then nobody ever comes, because the thing is with all these ideas, it actually takes people to go and actually collect it. And then they realize, well, hang on a minute, we have to set up a big department. We have to have a revenue department that's going to go out to all these places, go to these villages, go and get all this land tax for land that's not being used. So I don't know actually anybody that's actually had to pay any of this tax as yet. I'm trying to think. So, yeah, I really don't honestly see where that's going with this tax issue at the moment. So I really can't say. It's almost like the owning the land if you got 40 million baht. When somebody asks me, and then I ask a lawyer or something, and they just sort of like come back and say, oh, I don't know. We don't really know yet. We're waiting. And then, and that, of course, I have to tell that to the customer. So, yeah, unfortunately, I'm not really sure.
Hello again, Mark. I just want to ask you where that beautiful condo was with the sort of like canal around it. What?
Oh, that's Whale Marina. That was built by a Thai builder, and he's actually the owner of the project. Yeah.
Okay. So it's called Whale Marina.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He still has some units for sale. Yeah, we have some for sale there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Thank
he's
you.
actually the builder, because I have a project that will start imminently, and he was one of the builders that put a quote on it. And when a builder comes to me, I want to know what other projects they've done, and do I know them? And yeah, so I was actually familiar with his project because he built it and he actually owned it. He was the owner. He actually turned up in a chauffeur-driven Mercedes.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
And we're done. Big round of applause for Mark for sharing his great depth of knowledge. We have a small thank you token of your information sharing. So, apart from anything else, now you can put a voice to the picture you see around on all those posters up, and regard him as an important resource person in Pattaya who is doing his best to run an ethical, upfront business. So, thank you so much, Mark, for sharing your knowledge. All right, you may go. Next week.